So starting off the review with a hot take, I need to get out of the way. I did not like the original Twister. There, I said it. I'll own it. I know I'm in the minority, but I have no nostalgia for the film. I just saw it recently for the first time, and I don't think it holds up well. I thought it was boring, cartoony, no stakes to the film. Going into Twisters, I wondered if I would think the same thing and if it would suffer the same fate. And thankfully, not at all, really. Starting off with the very opening scene of Twisters, it establishes a tone that the first one never really set for me, and that is the realism and the stakes at play when you're dealing with something like this. There are rules to disobeying the laws of nature, trying to chase these tornadoes. There are consequences if you risk it for too long. Now, our main character, played by Daisy Edgar-Jones, she kind of realizes this in the opening scene. Something happens to her that's very bad, somebody she's close to. And from that point on, you are just locked in and engaged because bad shit is about to happen. As the viewer in Twister, we follow two main characters, Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell, and their complete contrast, which I think is a smart way and a cool thing to approach for this movie. If Daisy Edgar-Jones, she suffers a catastrophe at the start of the film. She's incredibly serious about this subject matter because, she's lost people close to her. She's just always had a passion for this. She just does this for the love of the game, as they say. She's chasing tornadoes. She's trying to figure this out. But she kind of moves into her scientific role where she's just trying to save society, save earthquake aftermath, to save lives. It's more about a job to her and just, saving lives as opposed to chasing fun. We have the contrast that she runs into Glenn Powell. He's a famous YouTuber. And what he does is he just chases tornadoes. He does it for the thrill. He's loved it since he's a kid. You have this contrast where you have one person who's doing it for the betterment of society, one person just kind of having fun. I think that's a really interesting avenue to explore when you have two main characters that are going to spend time together. And if I'm being honest, the main reason I didn't actually like the original Twister is because I just didn't like the characters and I was not engaged in the story. I actually went as far as to describe to somebody, anytime there wasn't a tornado on screen, I was bored with that movie. I just wanted more tornadoes. And thankfully, Twisters doesn't run into that problem because our two main characters are so interesting to spend time with. And I definitely think that is due solely to the fact that they have such great chemistry as the two leads of the film. I'm a pretty big fan of Daisy Edgar-Jones' previous works, Fresh, Where the Crawdads Sing. I think she's really good in both of those, as well as the fact she's just absolutely adorable. So I like her previous work a lot. But clearly when you're watching this, Glenn Powell does steal the show. Like, he has been recently a lot. I just think the guy is so charismatic, so charming, so handsome. He is destined to be one of Hollywood's biggest stars. And while we're on the topic of Glenn Powell, we need to address an elephant in the room with this guy. I mean, everybody thinks of this guy as Hangman. They think of him from the new Sydney Sweeney movie, but he will always be Chad Rabwell from the Dickie Dollar Scholar Club. And if you understand that reference, you are cultured. The movie's about 2 hours long, and it chooses to break up the runtime by alternating back and forth a few ways, in which you have the first half of it, you're spending time with the characters, getting to know them and their groups, the scientific implications, what are their motives, their past, all the stuff that makes you bond with them as a viewer, enjoy them. You're spending so much time with them, it's good to get to know them. The second half is all of the intense stuff you saw in the trailer, and that is the key word to take away from this movie. It is intense. Because when you get into it and you're chasing the tornadoes, you're in the eye of the storm, all of the high-octane CGI, the graphics, holy shit is this movie intense. As I described earlier, when you're in these action scenes where you're chasing the storms, you have all of the CGI, these graphics, the music's getting really loud. It is so intense. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. I think this might be the most intense movie I've watched all year. Like, it is unrelentingly tense. Like, I described the first movie as a little bit boring and cartoony. This movie just never lets up, and that is the tonal difference, at least to me. There are a couple of scenes, including the opening scene, that go on for a good 10 to 15 minutes, it feels like, and they are just, you are in it. And they establish very early on that there are stakes to this, that people can die, that there are consequences. So you really do feel for all of the characters, and you are kind of on the fence if you think they're going to live or not. And that's very powerful because in these type of movies, these disaster movies, I feel like it's very predictable usually. And this one does a good job at establishing that these are humans, bad things can happen, and you better care about them because you don't know how long they're going to be here, because bad shit does happen to a good number of characters in this film. And as much action as there is in this movie, I definitely think there's some smart commentary about humanity, and subtle, serious moments I think really make this film stand out. Because you have Glenn Powell and he's chasing these tornadoes. He's having fun with it at first, and then he kind of meets the main character, and he's like, they kind of bond over the fact that she's had loss. She's doing this for a purpose, and he kind of changes a little bit. And in the midst of all of the action, it never loses the humanity, the significance that at the other side of tornadoes, we're having fun with it. There's devastation. People are losing lives. They're losing their life savings. They're losing their houses. Just all of this terrible stuff going on that really grounds you and reminds you that as much fun as we're having watching this film, this is serious. And, this impacts people's lives. People in this movie make it known that they care about other people's lives. It's just a touch of humanity, I think, really elevates this movie to a movie where you really care about the characters. You care about the premise they're exploring and why they feel it's so ambitious to solve it. I don't know. I just thought it had a lot of heart. Something else that might be subtle to some people, but I definitely think it stood out with the music and the soundtrack choices in this. It's a very like country southern feel, and it's cool because it's grounded. It's in Oklahoma. It's during tornado season. It just grounds you, as I said. It makes you really feel like you're part of this hometown country where it's just the damage is insurmountable when these tornadoes come through. I think it was a very smart choice, kind of warm you up to the community, make you feel like you're really part of this journey. Just a little detail some might not think is significant as me. I really like the music choice in this. Plus, I also like country music, so that helped. The last thing that's kind of subtle, but I also think was really smart, was the way they choose the story and the two main characters bonding. Now, obviously, we all know that's something that's going to happen. It's just a given with these type of movies. But the way this movie goes about it, I think, was pretty smart in that it never gets cartoony and cheesy like a rom-com where it just feels like there's no stakes again. I thought it was pretty realistic. Obviously, there's some suspension of disbelief in the Twisters movie, just given the subject matter. But overall, the way they kind of make them bond and, they discover one another and like they start learning about their past, I thought it was pretty authentic. All the way up to the very final scene where it's the scene that gives away that he's actually fully connected with her. It's like a line and it's a look and again, it might have been subtle to some people. Some people might not even know what I'm talking about, but there was a specific scene where it really hones in on the fact that like they're bonded now. And I thought it was a very smart way to show it that a lot of movies don't do. So I just appreciated the subtleness of it all. There was even a line towards the end of this film in which one of the characters in this movie walks up to another one and goes, "I think I might love you." That's kind of how I feel about this movie. When it got to that point, I was like, holy shit, I might love this movie. I don't know, going into films like this still really is my favorite movie going experience after all these years at the theater. I love this film. I expected I would hate it. I thought I was going to be bored stiff. I thought it was intense. I was on the edge of my seat throughout. It just has everything I think a summer blockbuster should have. It has heart, it has action, great thrills, it has comedic relief at times, a talented and attractive core of actors and actresses with chemistry. It's just the whole bag as far as I'm concerned. It was so good. I thought it was fucking awesome. Just being honest, this is definitely the biggest surprise of the year so far for me because I had less than no expectations for this film. Walking into it, I was actually almost a little bit resentful that I was going to waste 2 hours on a predetermined outcome, a movie I did not like. Not the case. Thought it was fabulous. So, I'll always take that. Welcome surprise. So have any of you guys seen this one yet, or do you have any interest seeing this? If not, do you like the original? Comment down below. Let me know all of that. As always, if you haven't subscribed, what the hell are you waiting for? I do it all on this channel. I do new releases, scary stuff, tier list rankings, all of that stuff. Join me down below. We'd love to have you. That's all I got in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.